So today's video I wanted to do on that inner loneliness that we all feel and how you can never fill that up from external things. And the ego is quite tricky. Like I think sometimes you actually can feel you are filling it up with the right things, like you're doing yoga and um, like spiritual things and but I feel like this can be, just the same as trying to fill it up from things that we view as more material. If we're at any point sort of seeking outside of ourselves to feel more whole, then, there's always going to be that inner feeling of something's missing. Hey, we've got a little visitor. Hey, Laz. Hey, you coming to be in the bed? And actually, to like the last couple of days, because like the last few weeks, I've been feeling really, I've been really integrating and processing a lot, and I've just been very insular, like staying in a lot, staying alone a lot, and I've been getting caught up on watching like random YouTube things. So I actually never really follow any YouTubers or any big YouTubers. I don't really spend time watching them. And I just kind of was looking at a few, and some of them you kind of look and there's that moment where you think, wow, these people, they've got so much money, it's like doing whatever they want to do every day. But then there's always like signs or a video about how they're kind of dealing with depression or they have anxiety or their life still kind of feels meaningless. And this really hit home for me because, when I was doing more kind of modeling, promo, photography work, like I came into this world really, really aware that I was meant to meet my twin flame. Like I've had this feeling since I was very, very young, like I don't know, 11 or maybe even earlier, that there was like a person, an energy of a person no one ever really compared to them until my awakening, when I started to kind of move that energy into a person at 28. But before that, there was always this feeling that, there was this energy of this person. And I mean, I now understand it more. I understand that I was basically, from a very young age, really aware that I needed to unite with myself. And at some point in the journey, I started to reflect that inner union onto an external person, thinking that, if I could get them, if they would want me, then I would be kind of complete. But I think it's like the kind of carrot that, if we didn't have these strong connections and we didn't have that outward perception, that's how the universe is set up and planned, is that the outer shows us our relationship to ourselves. But because it's in the outer, it's like a constant carrot moving us to want to get into inner union, because before we were really conscious, there'd be no real desire to do it if the universe wasn't set up in that way, that we saw ourselves through external people in the form of relationships. But it reminded me, watching a lot of these bloggers, that I never had like millions in the bank and was sitting around and doing vlogs, which look a lot of fun. But I really kind of went back and was very honest with myself, and I thought, do you know what though? I did used to do modeling, I used to do photography, and I used to go to a lot of really, really high profile events. And, there'd be, as not only just to work, but just like, I'd be invited to a lot of them where, it was on stage with Lionel Richie, drinking champagne, the most amazing food you've ever seen in your life. And you know what? At all of them, there was always something missing. There was always this like inner feeling that of loneliness. And it didn't matter how many people were around, how many things I had, how amazing my experience was. And I kind of needed to check back in with that feeling, because I think occasionally you can get a little bit lost and caught up in certain material things, not just material, but like material or just external things, and you start to think, oh my god, did I make the right decisions, like purging all of that out, following this path, like doing the things that felt more authentic, even though I could have made a lot more money or gotten a lot more stuff doing this journey. Or and I just really thought back onto my past and the times when I've had the most luxurious money can't buy experiences. And you can look back in them in a certain way, but when I really put myself there and remember what they felt like, they were always there was always an inner feeling of loneliness, emptiness, that kind of like just haunted me in every situation. And I think it haunts everybody. I don't think there's anybody that can get away from it. And I think that we can start to try and grasp it, like, and feel it from various places. And there's so many ways people do that. They shop, or they just get loads of, wear loads of makeup, or they try to make themselves look really hot externally, or they buy cars, or they earn lots of money. And I think the more you look into these people's lives that kind of have it all, the more you can see almost that they're just still having this real void inside, and hence why they don't look happy deep down, and they're not experiencing true love, and they're not really ultimately fulfilled in life. And I think it's really easy. It's like a trap of the ego, that it's really easy to sort of fall into the feeling that that's some kind of ideal life, to be having all this luxury, or to to look really hot. There's just so many different ways it can, and it can happen spiritually too. Like, I've done that path as well. I've tried everything. I tried really, really hard to fill myself up, externally, and as we all do, addictions is another thing. And I became really, really spiritual at one point. I was like tarot reading and getting readings done and having all these crystals, and I kind of do it all a bit now, but I have a bit more fun with it, and I see that I'm the creator of my experience, and if I want to have a bit of fun with these things, that's cool. But I don't think that they're gonna kind of come along and save me, or give me the truth, or give me anything that I can't give to myself. And that was really the shift for me. And I'm not saying there's not the odd moment, but I genuinely live a lot of my life now not having or feeling that like loneliness. And because just when I was watching the videos, there was this part of me that thought, oh, there was a second where I thought, if I could go back in time, or YouTube was bigger when I was younger, like I would totally have had one of these blogs, and I'd have all this money, And then I really had to just really feel into that and actually think, do you know what, I wouldn't go back for anything, because that feeling of not feeling like you need to be filled up externally is just such a relief. It's such a shift in life that can take you into such a different place, where you are the source of your own happiness. And I really think a lot of people just never really get there, because they're so busy trying to satisfy themselves externally, that they don't realize that loneliness that they're always feeling is like just to come home within, And it really kind of hit me. It was something quite strong from watching all these videos of these very young people that kind of have it all and yet look very, very depressed still, or post videos about how depressed they are, or there's sort of some level missing. And it really just took me back to those days when I was going to some of the most amazing experiences that money couldn't buy, and there was always this feeling of loneliness, of not really being a part of everything, of something missing, and sadness and loneliness. And I really honestly think that's a feeling that everybody has. And I think people can mask it for a bit, because an external thing can kind of fill you up for a bit, like a relationship, or um, something new, or and some of these YouTube videos, I'm not going to name any or purposely pick any of them apart, but it's just like, wow, they really are just a complete and utter bombardment of everything that's sort of not in alignment. The fun and the laughter bits for sure, but it's so much emphasis on external things, like, look how much money I've got, look at all my makeup, like I look a different person. And there's just such a bombardment of this on the internet, and they're so popular, these channels, that obviously people want to watch them. So people, they're like a draw. It kind of shows how easy it is for our mentality to get into those things. But yeah, I just I really feel that it's when people are honest with themselves, there's always that emptiness, there's always that loneliness, and you can't mask it. You can only go in and find out where you're not completely aligned and in union with yourself, basically. And no one can fill that gap up for you. And I think for many, many years on this journey, I thought reuniting with my twin flame would fill it up. And I'm now at the point where I realise that you don't get your twin flame until you've filled it up yourself. And you actually no longer need them to do that job for you, because they're just reflecting a whole inner state that you're in. Wow, Lilith agrees. I don't know if you can hear that, but yeah. So that's my video, and yeah, I'll be back soon.